went to jail 6 times. He was exiled to a remote desert. A bomb exploded right in front of him and paralyzed his arm for the rest of his life. And yet, this man ruled one of the most powerful, most defiant nations on earth for 37 years. He went from a kid mocked for wearing clerical robes to the man who controlled Iran's nuclear program, its armies, its courts, its streets. His name was Ali Khamenei. And this is the full story, from a small dark room in Mashhad to the most fortified bunker in Tehran. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment of the truth you will love to know. Let's move forward. April 19th, 1939. A city called Mashhad in northeastern Iran. It's a holy city. Home to one of the most visited Shia shrines in the entire world, the tomb of Imam Reza. Millions of pilgrims pour in every year. Huge, sacred, important. And right in the middle of all that grandeur, a baby is born in a tiny 65 square meter house. 1 room, 1 dark basement. A family of 10 crammed in there. His name is Ali Khamenei. His father, Sayyid Javad, is a local cleric. Respected in the community, yes, but barely making ends meet. His mother, Khadija, is sharp, educated in literature, poetry, and religion. She runs a tight household, devoted, focused. Ali is the second of 8 children. He would later describe his childhood like this. He said his family sometimes had nothing but bread and raisins for supper. Nothing. The house had 1 room and a gloomy basement. When visitors came to see his father, the family had to quietly retreat downstairs and wait. Now look, some people look back on poverty with bitterness. Others look back on it as fuel. For Khamenei, it became the foundation of everything, an austere, disciplined, God-first existence that he would carry all the way to the top. He starts his religious education early, very early. By 11 years old, he's already dressing in clerical robes, the long, dark garment that marks him as a student of Islamic scholarship. You can imagine it. An 11-year-old in clerical robes walking to school. His classmates mock him. They tease him about it. He doesn't care. Or at least, that is what he tells himself. He studies Arabic grammar under his father's supervision. He attends 2 religious schools in Mashhad, the Suleiman Khan Madrasa and the Nawab Madrasa. He reads, he memorizes, he recites. He is, by all accounts, a focused and devoted student. But here's something important you need to understand, something that will matter a great deal later in his life. He's not just studying religion, he's also reading literature, Persian poetry. He falls in love with it. He becomes a genuine literary person, someone who carries poetry inside him the way other people carry phone numbers. He translates books. He writes. He thinks. This is not a one-dimensional man. He's complicated from the start. Now, to understand what happens next, you need to understand the world this young man was growing up in. Iran in the 1950s and 1960s is ruled by a king, the Shah. His full name is Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. The Shah has the backing of the United States and Britain. He's westernizing Iran at full speed, modernizing the military, building infrastructure, bringing in foreign investment. He also has a secret police force called Savak. And Savak is not gentle. In 1963, the Shah launches something he calls the White Revolution. It's a package of reforms, land redistribution, giving women the right to vote, privatizing industry. Sounds great, right? Not to the clerics, to the religious establishment. This is a direct attack on their power. The land reforms were gutting the wealthy landowners who funded the seminaries, giving women political rights, unthinkable to many in that tradition. And the whole thing had a distinctly American flavor to it, which made it even more offensive to nationalist and religious Iranians. One cleric rises above the noise to say, loudly and clearly, this is wrong. His name is Ruhollah Khomeini. Khomeini is a senior religious scholar in the city of Qom. He is not shy. He calls the Shah out directly. He's the kind of man who says exactly what he thinks from the pulpit. Consequences be damned. and the young Ali Khamenei, who by 1958 has moved to Qom to continue his advanced studies, sits in Khomeini's classes. Let that sink in. He sits in the man's classes. He listens to him teach. He's shaped by him. Khomeini is not just a mentor to Khamenei. He becomes the organizing force around which Khamenei's entire political identity is built. Years later, Khamenei will say plainly, "In areas of political and revolutionary ideas, I am a disciple of Imam Khomeini." Student becomes soldier, becomes strategist. That is the arc. In May 1963, Khomeini tasks Khamenei with a secret mission: deliver a confidential letter to Shia clergy in Mashhad. A letter exposing what the Shah's forces did to the Fayziya seminary in Qom. They raided it, attacked protesting students. The letter is explosive. Khamenei travels, he delivers the message, and in the city of Birjand, he's arrested for the first time. He's 24 years old. The authorities hold him overnight and tell him stop talking from the pulpit. He knows from that day forward that he's being watched. The secret police has him on their list. Does he stop? No. 2 weeks later, in June 1963, Khomeini delivers a fiery speech at the Fayziya seminary. He's arrested. The country explodes. Nationwide demonstrations. Thousands march. The Shah orders a crackdown. People die in the streets. Khamenei is arrested again. This time he spends 10 days in prison, in harsh conditions. He's getting educated in a different kind of school now. Over the next decade and a half, Khamenei is arrested, released, arrested again. 6 times total. Each time he comes out harder, more committed, more certain that the Shah's regime must fall. In between arrests, he is spreading Khomeini's message when Khomeini is sent into exile in 1964. First to Turkey, then Iraq, then eventually France. His words still reach Iran. How? Through cassette tapes, illegal copies smuggled in, passed hand to hand. Khamenei is one of the people distributing them. Think about that image. Young clerics passing around cassette tapes in the dark. Revolutionary sermons, bootleg religious speeches, in a country where the Shah's secret police are everywhere. It is genuinely dangerous work, and Khamenei does it anyway. December 14th, 1977, it is before dawn in Mashhad when they come for him. The Shah's agents raid his home. They arrest him, not to throw him in a regular jail this time. They have something different planned. They are sending him into internal exile. Banished, removed, sent to a place so far away and so miserable that maybe the revolution will just forget he exists. The place is called Iran-isreal. It is in the Sistan-Baluchestan province, the southeastern corner of Iran. Remote does not even begin to describe it. This is a dusty, sun-scorched region, predominantly Sunni, desperately poor. It's about as far from the sacred city of Mashhad as you can get, geographically and culturally. He's supposed to stay there for 3 years. Now this is the part of the story where you expect him to break, where the isolation and the heat and the distance from everything he knows would crush him. But something interesting happens instead. He makes friends with the locals. These are Sunni Baluch people. A different sect, a different culture, a different world from his Shia clerical background. And instead of looking down on them or treating them like obstacles, he connects with them. He earns their trust. He stays human. He would later say in his own account that his faith helped him weather the exile in peace. He says he did not even feel homesick. Maybe that is true. Maybe that is a man managing his own story. But what is certainly true is that he uses the time. He corresponds with his activist networks back home. He reads. He thinks. He waits. Because the revolution he has been working toward his entire adult life, it is about to happen. By mid-1978, events in Iran have moved far beyond anything the Shah can control. Protests are spreading like fire across every major city. Workers are striking. Newspapers are printing things that would have been unthinkable a year before. The Shah is losing his grip, and everyone can feel it. In mid-1978, Khamenei is released from exile early. He goes back to Mashhad and immediately throws himself back into the work. Meanwhile, from France, Khomeini is directing the revolution by cassette tape and written message, guiding millions of Iranians who have never even seen him in person. His authority over the movement is total. His name is on the lips of every protester. On January 16, 1979, the Shah boards a plane and leaves Iran. He never comes back. On February 1, 1979, Khomeini's plane touches down in Tehran. Millions of Iranians pour into the streets to meet him. The scenes are extraordinary, a country completely unraveling and rebuilding itself at the same moment. 10 days later, on February 11, 1979, the old government collapses. The military stands down. The revolution is complete. Where is Khamenei in all of this? He's appointed to the Revolutionary Council, Khomeini's inner circle of power brokers, who are now trying to build a whole new nation, essentially, from scratch. Khamenei moves from Mashhad to Tehran. He becomes Deputy Minister of Defense. He's given oversight of the newly formed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, the military force that will become arguably the most powerful institution in Iran for the next 50 years. And he becomes the Friday prayer leader of Tehran. Every week from the pulpit of Tehran University, he preaches to thousands. He's a firebrand, sharp, ideologically locked in, a full-blooded true believer in Khomeini's vision of an Islamic republic. He's not a background figure. He's right at the center. June 27th, 1981, a Saturday. Khamenei has just come back from the front lines of the Iran-Iraq war. Iraq under Saddam Hussein invaded Iran in September 1980, and the war is turning into something catastrophic. Men dying by the thousands, chemical weapons, no end in sight. He goes to the Abu Zar Mosque in Tehran to lead the congregational prayers. It is his routine. He does this every Saturday. People submit questions on paper slips and he answers them from the pulpit. After the first prayer, he sits down. A young man approaches, medium height, curly hair, a beard, wearing a checkered coat. He places a tape recorder on the table in front of Khamenei. Surrounded by papers, he presses play. For about a minute, nothing unusual. Then the tape recorder begins making a strange whistling sound, and then it explodes. The blast tears through the mosque. Khamenei is thrown from his seat. His right arm absorbs the full force of the explosion. His lungs and vocal cords are damaged. He's rushed to Baharlu Hospital in southern Tehran. Inside the two pieces of the shattered tape recorder, investigators find a note written on the inner wall, a gift of the Furqan group to the Islamic Republic. Khamenei survives, barely, but his right arm is permanently paralyzed. For the rest of his life, 37 more years as supreme leader, he'll keep that arm hidden inside his cloak during public appearances. It lies useless at his side. He learns to write with his left hand. He would later say, "Yeah, I do not need my hand as long as my mind and voice remain intact." Here's a small but remarkable detail that historians have pointed out. Joseph Stalin also had a withered arm, injured in a childhood accident, that he hid from the public. The image of power concealing physical vulnerability beneath the robes of authority, the hidden hand. For Khamenei, it became the metaphor that defined him, hidden, controlling, never showing weakness. One day after the mosque bombing, another explosion rips through the headquarters of the Islamic Republican Party in Tehran. Over 70 people are killed, including senior figures of the new Islamic Republic. The Republic is under attack from multiple sides, but Khamenei is already climbing back up. Just months after the bombing, after recovering through intensive medical treatment, he runs for president. October 1981, Iran holds a presidential election. 4 candidates are approved by the ruling council. Khamenei wins with 97% of the vote. Now, before you raise an eyebrow too high, yes, these were heavily controlled elections with limited candidates, so the margin is not quite as dramatic as it sounds. But it does tell you something real. Within the Islamic Republic's political world, Khamenei is the obvious choice. He's connected, loyal, battle-tested, and very publicly a Khomeini man. He becomes the first cleric ever to hold the Iranian presidency. Khomeini had originally wanted clergy to stay out of executive office, but things changed. They always do. His presidency runs from 1981 to 1989. 8 years. And it is not an easy 8 years. The Iran-Iraq war grinds on for the entire duration. 8 bloody years of trench warfare, chemical attacks, child soldiers sent to clear minefields. The costs are staggering, hundreds of thousands dead. Iran's economy under severe strain, international isolation. The West is back in Iraq. The United States is giving Saddam intelligence. Khamenei watches all of this from up close. He watches how the Western world treats Iran when it is convenient and abandons it when it is not. The experience burns itself into him. His suspicion of the West, especially America, goes from ideological to deeply personal. He reruns in 1985 and wins again, 87% this time. But here's the thing about being president under Khomeini's system. The president is not the most powerful person in the room. Khomeini is still the supreme leader. The Constitution gives Khomeini ultimate authority over everything. Military, judiciary, foreign policy, the works. Khamenei as president is powerful, but not supreme. He manages, he navigates, he understands the game. He's not reckless, he's patient. Patience, it turns out, is one of his most lethal qualities. June 3rd, 1989. Ruhollah Khomeini, the father of the Islamic Revolution, the most consequential figure in modern Iranian history, dies at the age of 86. The Islamic Republic has just lost the one man who held it all together by sheer force of personality and religious authority. The whole country goes into shock. Millions pour into the streets in grief. The scenes of mourning are almost impossible to describe. People throwing themselves on the ground, the crowd so massive it becomes dangerous. And inside the assembly of experts, the body of senior clerics whose job it is to appoint the supreme leader, a very urgent question is on the table. Who comes next? Khomeini had actually designated a successor years earlier, Ayatollah Hossein Ali Montazeri, senior cleric, well-respected, highly qualified. But in 1989, just months before Khomeini's death, there was a falling out. Montazeri publicly criticized the mass execution of political prisoners in 1988. Thousands of people killed in prisons. He called it a crime. Khomeini, who authorized the executions, did not take this well. Montazeri was stripped of his succession status. So now, there is no designated heir. The Assembly of Experts meets. The leading contender at that moment is actually Ali Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, a heavyweight in the new republic, politically savvy, enormously influential. But Rafsanjani himself pushes back on the idea of a council of leaders. And according to his later accounts, he is the one who actively promotes Khamenei as the solution. There is just one problem, a rather significant one. Khamenei does not meet the constitutional requirements to be supreme leader. To be the supreme leader of Iran under the Islamic Republic's constitution, you had to be a marja, a senior religious jurist of the highest rank, the equivalent of the most advanced level of Islamic scholarship. Khamenei was a Hojatul Islam, a middle-ranking cleric, respected, yes, but not at the top tier of religious authority. In short, he did not have the credentials. This is where it gets fascinating. The Assembly of Experts under political pressure does something remarkable. They amend the Constitution right then and there. They remove the requirement that the supreme leader must be a marja. They essentially change the rules to fit the candidate they have already chosen. Then they promote Khamenei overnight. He's declared an Ayatollah, a religious title he had not previously held, and then they vote him in as supreme leader. All of this happens within 24 hours of Khomeini's death. Khamenei himself, standing before the assembly, says something that becomes one of the most quoted moments of his life. He says, "I believe I do not deserve this position. Perhaps you and I know this. This would be symbolic leadership, not real leadership." He said this out loud with his own mouth. He was right that he lacked the religious stature. He was wrong about the symbolic part, very, very wrong. The early years of Khamenei's supreme leadership are precarious. He knows it. The senior grand ayatollahs, men with far greater religious credentials, are skeptical. Some are openly hostile. The whispers are constant. He does not deserve this. He's not qualified. He is a political appointment, not a genuine religious authority. So what does he do? He builds power, systematically, carefully. Like someone who has spent their whole life being underestimated. He expands the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Under his direction, this organization transforms from a military force into something that touches virtually every part of Iranian life. The IRGC has its own economy. It builds roads and bridges. It controls ports. It has media companies. It produces weapons. It funds proxy groups across the Middle East. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, Houthi fighters in Yemen, Shia militias in Iraq. The IRGC becomes in many ways a state within a state, and it answers directly to Khamenei. He also builds up a massive financial empire, an organization called Setad, the headquarters for executing the order of the Imam, becomes his personal economic tool. Reuters, after a 6-month investigation, estimated that Setad controlled assets worth roughly $95 billion. 95 billion. More, they noted, than the estimated wealth of the last Shah. This is a man who grew up eating bread and raisins for dinner. On the international front, Khamenei's strategy is built on one word: resistance. He's not interested in accommodation with the West. He does not believe that Western powers are acting in good faith toward Iran. He has watched what happened in 1953 when the CIA helped overthrow Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh. He has lived through the Iran-Iraq War when the West backed Saddam. He does not forget these things. His foreign policy becomes the axis of resistance, a network of groups and governments that position themselves against American and Israeli influence in the Middle East. Iran funds them, Iran trains them, Iran directs them. Hezbollah fires into Israel. Hamas attacks. Houthi drones target ships in the Red Sea. Shia militias attack American bases in Iraq and Syria. All of this is traceable in various degrees back to Tehran. Back to Khamenei's hidden hand. He rarely shows the hand directly. He operates through proxies, through layers, through intermediaries. His fingerprints are almost never on anything, but his ideology is writ large across everything. Domestically, his record is different depending on who you ask. If you ask his supporters, and there are genuine ones, he's the man who kept Iran from being dismembered by its enemies, who built self-reliance under crushing sanctions, who preserved the Islamic Revolution against every force that sought to destroy it, who gave Iran a nuclear program that made it impossible to ignore. If you ask the millions of Iranians who protested under his rule in 2009, in 2019, in 2022 with the Woman Life Freedom movement, he's the man who crushed dissent with lethal force, who put bloggers in prison for criticizing him, who had journalists arrested, beaten, silenced. Both of these descriptions are accurate. That is the uncomfortable truth of power at this scale. By the 2020s, Khamenei's position, while still formidable, is under greater pressure than at any point in his leadership. The Iranian economy is battered. Decades of U.S. and European sanctions have cut Iran off from the global financial system. Inflation is severe. Unemployment is high. Young Iranians, increasingly urban, educated, and connected to the world through smartphones, are tired. In 2022, a young Kurdish Iranian woman named Mahsa Amini dies in the custody of Iran's morality police after being arrested for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. The country erupts. Women take off their hijabs in public and set them on fire. Protests spread to every province. For months, the Islamic Republic faces the most sustained challenge to its legitimacy. Khamenei calls the protests a foreign plot. He has the security forces crack down. Hundreds of protesters are killed, thousands are arrested. The protests eventually subside, but they do not disappear. Meanwhile, on the regional front, a direct confrontation with Israel is escalating beyond anything the hidden hand strategy can contain. During the Israel-Hamas war that began with the October 7, 2023 attacks, Iranian proxies become central actors. Hezbollah fires missiles from Lebanon, Houthis target ships, militias attack American forces. Israel, frustrated and threatened, begins to strike back directly, not just at proxies, but at Iranian targets. In April and October 2024, Israel and Iran exchanged direct fire for the first time in their decades-long confrontation. Drones, missiles, real warfare between the two nations. Then, in June 2025, the United States joins the Israeli side. Iran's military capacity is severely degraded. Key figures are killed. Nuclear facilities are struck. After this war, Khamenei goes underground, literally. He retreats to a bunker beneath his compound in Tehran. According to reports, the bunker is so deep that the elevator alone takes more than 5 minutes to reach it. He becomes increasingly reclusive, increasingly invisible. He's 86 years old. He has a paralyzed arm. His country's military has been weakened. His proxies are degraded. His economy is shattered, but he's still there. February 28, 2026, a Saturday. The same day of the week as the day a bomb exploded in a mosque and tore apart his arm. The same day that, for decades, he had survived while everything around him tried to bring him down. At 1:15 in the morning, Eastern Time, a coordinated military strike begins. The United States and Israel launch a massive assault on Iran. It is described as the most significant U.S. military action since the early days of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Strategic facilities across Iran are targeted simultaneously, and then Israeli jets drop 30 bombs on Khamenei's compound. For hours, confusion. Iranian state media denies everything. Officials say nothing is confirmed. Reports circulate, are denied, circulate again. The world waits. Then, at 2:48 in the afternoon, Reuters publishes a report. An unnamed Israeli official says Khamenei's body has been found. A photograph reportedly shown to the Israeli Prime Minister. Iranian state television holds out until March 1st. Then, early in the morning, it broadcasts the confirmation. It is announced to the Iranian people that His Eminence Grand Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, leader of the Islamic Revolution, was martyred. His daughter Boshra, his son-in-law, his daughter-in-law, a grandchild, all killed in the same strike. His wife initially reported dead, later confirmed to be alive. Iran declares 40 days of national mourning, and something else happens too. In the streets of Isfahan, Karaj, Shiraz, Sanandaj, and Tehran, in cities across Iran, some people celebrate. They go outside in the night, in the early morning, and they cheer. This too is part of the story. 37 years. The modern Middle East, longer than most living memory can reach back. He shaped an entire generation of Iranians, shaped what they watched on television, what they read in newspapers, whether or not they could attend a music school, who they could vote for, how women dressed in public. He had that kind of reach into daily life. He built Iran into a regional power. He supported the development of nuclear infrastructure that, by the time of his death, had Iran on the edge of weapons-grade enrichment capability. He created a military alliance system, the Axis of Resistance, that stretched from Yemen to Lebanon to Iraq to Gaza. He made Iran's proxies into strategic tools that reshaped the entire Middle East. He also presided over a system that imprisoned dissidents, killed protesters, and left millions of ordinary Iranians economically strangled by sanctions that his foreign policy choices invited. He died in a bunker, in a compound, under 30 bombs. The position he left has no designated successor. There is no deputy supreme leader. That position was abolished in 1989, the same year Khamenei came to power. An interim council takes over. His son Mojtaba, long rumored as the heir he was secretly grooming, is eventually appointed by the Assembly of Experts in March 2026. Iran goes on, as Iran always has. But here's the thing that history will wrestle with for a very long time. This man, this boy who grew up in a one-room house eating raisins, this student who sat at the feet of a revolutionary cleric and caught the fire, this young man arrested 6 times and exiled to a desert and nearly blown up in a mosque, he became the person who held together the most ideologically rigid, geopolitically ambitious, and militarily active non-NATO power in the world for nearly 4 decades. He did it through patience, through coalition building in the shadows, through an absolute conviction, right or wrong, that he was doing God's work in a world that had wronged his country. He hid his paralyzed hand beneath his robes and ran an empire with the other. Was he tyrant by the standards of liberal democracy? Unquestionably. Was he consequential by the standards of history? Enormously. The bread and raisins boy from Mashhad, arrested at 24, exiled at 38, bombed at 42, supreme leader at 50, dead at 86. So the next time someone tells you that circumstances define a person, that the conditions of your birth determine how far you go, remember this story, not because Khamenei is a hero, not because his path is one to admire, but because the world is shaped for better and worse by people who refuse to accept the limits placed on them, who get arrested and come back, who lose an arm and learn to write with the other hand, who are told they are not qualified and change the rules. History is rarely made by the comfortable or the certain. It is made by the desperate, the convinced, and the patient. Ali Khamenei was all 3. That is the story. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment of the truth you will love to know.